Good morning. Hand today is going to be 8-7 offsuit. We are under the gun in this 10-NL game. We've got 8 players. I fold. So the next guy limps, and then we get a raise. That folds out everyone else, and then the limper calls. So let's build these ranges, take a look at what we're dealing with. Limper first, he's playing 15-4, only 27 hands. What we know about him is that he seems to be limping. 1 out of 5, 2 out of 6 for mid position. He did raise the button. How do we build this range? What I just looked at is that we do know 2 hands that he limped and called. Queen 10 suited, King 10 off. So I just kind of expanded the slider. Expanded the slider to get those hands in there. And then I looked at what hands do I think he would raise with. And for raising, I said maybe 7%. So it's like Queens plus. You've got some decent broadways, some suited hands. Like Ace 10 plus, Ace 10 suited plus, King Queen, King Jack suited. I think most people tend to raise these things, so I'm gonna have them raised, and then all the rest just calls. Now, when I was doing the slider, it gave me like the suited kings. I took those out. I don't think in early position most players are going to be limp calling with those. I don't think you're gonna have a lot of these like Jack 8 suited, 10 8 suited, 9 7, so the suited gappers. I don't think you're really gonna have a lot of the smaller hands. So I've refined it a bit, because I don't think some of those hands are limp calling hands. Quite frankly, I didn't think they were limping hands to begin with. Not second to act. So that overall gets me to 15.1%, which, somewhat surprisingly, it matches the 15% that he has played overall. So I think this is going to be probably his limp calling range. We've got both the Queen 10 suited and the King 10 off. So we're going with that. Next guy, he's raising. He's playing 2018. I got 405 hands on him. We look at 3-bet ranges, called 2-bets. Overall, it looks like he is fair between like 13 and 21%. That seems to be his ranges. So right now, this could be middle position. When we look at raise with previous limpers, you can see that he does not seem to limp behind as much at all. He doesn't have a limp with previous limpers. He's basically coming in with a raise when they limp. So we're going to build our range based on that. So same thing. I just kind of did the slider, and then I modified it. And I targeted the slider about 21% or so. So that seems to match what he plays here. And I know his raise first in stats higher, but I think it's, overall it's about the low 20s is what he's playing. What wasn't in there was like the King 10, Queen 10 hands. And I think some other ones. And what I did was I looked at his like 3-bet range, his Ace 10 off. I said, okay, well, if he's playing Ace 10 off as a 3-bet, he must be playing some other Broadway hands. And that just kind of led me to possibly this idea that he's not playing some of these lower speculative hands, and instead it's just heavy on Broadway. So I adjusted it so we've got Broadway here in his raising range. And then this guy called, and that's, we already talked about his limp calling range. All right, so we go to a flop, King Jack 2. I think it kind of hits both players a bit. I think since this player didn't raise first in, we're going to exclude like the kings. I think we're excluding jacks. I think King Jack offsuit is probably in his range. I'm not sure about King Jack suited. So like the back, I'm taking in terms of like the backdoor spade draw. I think you can have straight draws here, 1 pair hands. So given how it played out, I kind of expect him to check, but he didn't. He led. So we've got Donk flop at 50%. So 1 out of 2. What do people donk with? Well, we do have a note on here, and I bet this is his, um, one hand. So what did people normally bet here? They don't normally lead with sets or two pair. Those are usually like a check raising hands. He did bet for a larger amount, so about 75% pot. I think definitely it's like a top pair hand. Um, and I think all of these could be in there. So King 10, King 9, definitely. He's betting to see where he stands. Does his opponent have a better king? King Queen, though, um, sometimes could also do that. Um, I mean, he's got an awfully good kicker with the queen. Normally, you see it when you see the top pair lead here. They've got a weaker kicker. Um, so I'm going to cut King Queen back to at least 50% and say I'm not sure if he would donk with that. Could probably just check call. I don't like this play, and I'll tell you why I don't like the donk here. Um, because if he's betting to see where he's at, you already have another king. You block like the ace king that you're trying to see. Well, does he have ace king? You block that. You've already made it harder for him to have ace king. Um, so if you bet and he calls, it don't oughta you can't just say, well, he called me, so he must have ace king. No, this board is drawing, draw heavy. You can have your hearts, you can have your backdoor flush draw, you can have pair with straight draw with backdoor straight draws, backdoor flush draws, pair with the flush draw with a heart draw. You know, you can have a bunch of different hands here that I think you're going to be calling. So betting, you're not getting information here. It's probably better just to check call with your kings. So I'm going to give him top pair. What else would do players do this with? Possibly with the middle pair too is what I see it. So I'm going to scale this down to like 50% because we don't know this player. Um, we have situation where a lot of the donks just tend to be the top pair, or they'll be like a queens. So if this jack was, let's say, a 9 or an 8, then I think you've got your top pair with a weaker kicker, along with maybe like queens and jacks, maybe betting like this. Especially if a player has a propensity to do that, but most of the time they don't. So that's gonna be my range. I'm thinking king. That's what he's got. So he leads, and then we get a raise, and that's basically like a minimum raise. It's just like a minimum raise here. So what would he be raising with? Let's see what notes we have on here. We have a 3-bet where he 3-bet a guy with jacks. He's in position, so then he bet 50%, bet 75%. And with the jacks, he bet him is he had gut shot, and then he hit his gut shot and continued betting, and then he checked. I think that the flush must have gotten in there. He checked behind with 6-2, no big deal. Flop, donks flop with top pair or better. Really doesn't tell us anything. So with here, I think it's going to be top pair plus. Probably not king 10 or king 9. Probably not even king queen. I think we're going to scale this down to 50 for king queen. Say sometimes he would have just called. But I think king queen plus over pair. What else could he do this with? I think probably the flush draw is what he could do this with. Probably the open ender. The gut shots would have to have something else to go with it, I think. So I think with the flush draw, like flush draw with the gut shot, backdoor flush draw with the gut shot could be another one. Possibly. So we'll add these. Ace 10, queen 10, I guess queen 9. Don't know if 10-9 would bet like that. We'll do ace queen. Okay, so I think we'll be good. So we'll say that's his raising range. And then he calls. So he donked. And then he called, and he's probably calling with everything that he did. Maybe not the jacks, maybe not the middle pair. So I think we'll get rid of those. But the top pair, I think check and call. I think that's probably reasonable. 5 clubs comes out. He checks. Next guy bets them all in. So basically bets pot. Interesting bet size here. He didn't have to bet that large. Could be like a scare tactic. But this player had the opportunity to check behind here. So that kind of really limits what I think he's going to have. Don't really think King Queen's going to be doing that. I really don't think so. We'll do like a third. 1/3 with King Queen. I think everything else probably he's doing it with. Do I think he'd do that with the flush draw or open ender? Probably not here. Because again, he could check behind and take the free card. So I think that's what we're looking at. And then this other guy calls. So yeah, just top pair, 100%. I think that's what we're looking at. So he calls, king comes out. So now you've got trips. He shows king 10, which is in our range. He shows ace queen offsuit, which didn't have that anymore. Because I kind of thought that he would take out like this. Oh, the gut shot. It was the gut shot on the flop. 2-card gut shot. We could have added those back in. And if we do that, then when we get the 5 clubs coming out, then we're looking at these. And that's where I thought maybe he wouldn't do that. If he's on the draw, maybe why wouldn't he just check it to see what he gets? So I didn't get the ace queen hand. I think it's worthwhile to go ahead and get that information on here. We do have played turn, draw aggressively. That fits. So let's get our hand here. So we had a limp raise. So we had raise 3.5 big blind in low jack versus UTG2 limper with ace of hearts queen. Now ace of diamonds, queen of spades. He's in position. He raised. I think that was about 50%. We're going to say raised about 50%. And then he bet there we go. Spades. All right, so we're going to save that. Let's get him. So LFI and call low jacks 3.5 big blind. ISO in UTG2 with king of diamonds, 10 of spades, out of position, bet 75% and call 50%, and then check call. We did 80% all in. All right. I'm going to change that to ISO. ISO raise. Oops. There we go. All right. So, what do I think of the hands? No big surprise with King 10. Really, no big surprise. And it's going to be hard to get him off the hand. Once he bets the flop and then calls, I don't think he's going to call. He's not going to fold unless the board turns like ugly. And with ugly, I'm thinking the hearts. If a heart comes, yeah, then you could probably get him to fold. I'm not sure if you could get him to fold with a straight card. So best hand for low jack would be, or best card for low jack would have been like a 10 to appear to give him the straight, because I don't think this guy's gonna fold. I don't think he would fold at all. I mean, that 10's gonna give him 2 pair. He's getting, and that means the straight's gonna get paid. I don't like the limp. I think it's overly weak. I think it's probably just going to be a fold. I like the ISO raise by Ace Queen. That's good. Don't like the donk. It's just, again, the lead here at the 10 and L players. It's too obvious. You just think top pair weak kicker, and the vast majority of the time they have it. So we had that hand in his range. Now, if we didn't have the notes, would we have put King 10 in his limp calling range? Probably not. Probably would have had this other King 10 of spades, or King 10 suited, King 9 suited. So we still would have had a King 10. We just wouldn't have had as many combos of King 10s. So he bets, and then you get a raise with Ace Queen. I think that's. I mean, I like the raise. You're being aggressive, which is good. I'm not sure about the sizing. Kind of wondering, maybe he bets 6. Yeah, the board, the pot's 14.8. So if he calls, you're dealing with like a pot of about 21 or so, 22. So raising up to 13 is about 50% or so, maybe a little bit more. So you would be calling, and then you would be raising an amount. So now you would be calling, and then raising. It's not quite a min raise. That's the thing that was getting me. It's a small. Maybe that was 25%. So 14, 20, 21, and then he raises it. Yeah, maybe 30%, 33%. So, in any case, yeah, I don't mind the raise. I think that's probably the correct play. And then he calls, no big surprise. But at that point, you have to give him credit for the King 10, King 9, and with the 5, you have to think, does that change the board enough to where I can get a king to fold? Because that's actually that Ace Queen. That's what you're hoping to do with the bet here. You're trying to get that fold, and I don't think he's going to do that. So I think once you make that raise and he calls, I think there's better hands to bet with to get value. So I think like Ace King's probably betting to get some value. King Queen's betting to get some value. Of course, your 2-pair trips, overpair. Your aces you're going to bet for getting value. And then you can mix in like your solid combo draws, your flush draws with some straights. I think that's probably how this player should have played. Should he have called all in? Again, that player, he's protecting against all of the bluffs. So, I mean, yeah, it's probably correct. Let's check out, see what GTO says here. So I have it set up, and again, the flop raise size is going to be off. because it's, you know, kind of said 50%. It's not quite. It's GTO has a 50% raise larger than what was actually made, so we'll have to fix that. But you can see in this situation, GTOs wants 100%, or well, 98% check here. No big surprise. That's what he should be doing. He didn't. You know, his bet's going to be small. And then you've got a raise of 10%. You're going to mix in some of these raises, so definitely this is ace diamonds, queen of spades, ace of diamonds, queen of spades is mixing in about half call, half fold, and that's based against on a GTO player. So what we're going to do is just going to we're going to go ahead and adjust things here. Number one, we're going to adjust our sizes. Let's see here. We're going to build the tree. And we're going to do 33%. We're going to do something like that. Import tree. He bets. It's still not. Maybe that's what it is. That looks better. It's about 33%. Okay, so we've got that tree here, and then what we're gonna do, so we've got the tree. Let's run it and see what it says. So we'll be back. All right. So yeah, even here, 100% check. Check. The bet's here, you know, really small. I mean, really small chance to bet. And then when he does bet, you know, against GTO player, GTO has a leading range, but it's normally stronger than what you typically see. So, you know, against that range, yeah, no big surprise that GTO is saying we should just be calling with a lot of these hands. That I don't think that's realistic. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the flop here. We picked up top pair. And I think that's it. I think we're just going to keep that. So we're going to copy that. And we're going to use this as our out of position range. Done. And then we're going to build our tree again. We're going to import the tree. And we are going to remove that check. Accept changes. We're going to run this and we're going to be back. All right, so we've got the bet here, 100%. Now, once he bets, now I think we're getting a better idea of how to play this. So I'm going to say surprisingly, GTO isn't raising as much. I kind of would have thought Villain's going to be raising with a lot of different hands, and it just doesn't seem to be the case. So it looks like we are going to be folding more than what I expect. Well, I guess not. Middle pair, weak pair, you kind of figure the folds. I would have called with some of these with the idea that a heart coming, I'll take, you know, I plan to bluff on the heart. So that's kind of an exploitative move. Not always, but, you know, if this is a player that I think is exploitative like that, exploitable like that, that's a decent play. He's not really raising a whole lot of the flush draws because we're not really raising a lot of these other hands, these sets, two pair, over pair. Those are all calls, so it's just really minimizing our top pair hands like ace, king, king, queen, and really just ace, king. So if we're minimizing what we're raising with, then we're not going to have a whole lot of semi bluffs to balance. So yeah, according to the GTO play, then ace queen should be just calling in this case. He raises. and villain calls. So we'll give him, and let's see, with the raise and the call, villain still has him. Basically, you're committing with that top pair, and I guess that's probably okay. And maybe that's what GTO is looking at, is stack sizes. Because if you saw, we started this hand at, he's got 45. So here we have our effective stack size is 42 basically. GTO could easily be adjusting their play based on that sizing. So, you know, with the top pair, it looks like villain's getting ready to commit, basically to guard against some of those drawing hands. I do think you raise here. You raise just all in 42. I think ace. I think the hearts are going to be calling. Probably some of the open-enders are going to be calling as well. So you raise here, and you can see out of all the hands that made it, yeah, he's going to be calling. Ace Queen's a fold. I don't think this guy would fold Ace Queen. I think I probably would. I mean, with a gut shot, it'd be tough. I'd fold the queens. I feel like I'm forced to call with Ace King. This Ace Queen suited hand, that's the heart. So yeah, I'm calling that. Ace 10, Queen 10, just based on the hands that we have. Yeah, I can see it. He didn't. He just called, and then checks most of the time. And here we've got, of those hands that make it, yeah, villain is betting, but instead of betting the large size, actually it's GTO's favoring smaller sizes. So I think what we're seeing is some differences in how GTO would play compared to how this villain would play. I think I'm probably in line with that raise more on the flop. But I also understand where GTO is coming from too. If you think he's got a king, that's fewer kings that we have in our hand. So it's going to be harder to represent a king. And because it's harder to represent a king, maybe it's probably best just to call. And that's if we're going to be calling more, we have to have good hands in our calling range to balance the calls of our semi-bluffs. So that kind of shifts our overpairs, our trips to more calls. So it's kind of an interesting idea. And I think the other thing was a turn. Once we get to the turn, pot's 34, he's got 28. Opportunity to just shove all in or bet smaller size, bet like a 50% size, and GTO's favoring that smaller size. I think that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure I would have done that. I think the logical thing for me would have been, okay, let's just put them all in, but if we bet smaller, I guess there's a chance that we're going to get some folds. We're going to fold out some king 10s, some king 9s. If we think we can fold out some king 10s or king 9s, then the smaller bet size would work. If we don't think that we can do that, then I bet GTO would probably just say, let's just check with our draws. Go for a little bit of value. Well, the exploitable play would be basically don't have any draws in your range unless you've got like a combo, meaning like ace king, king queen, and that's not even a combo at that point. So yeah, exploitable play would be just check behind unless you've got a premium hand, because he'll call. So hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, you can look tomorrow. We'll get another hand posted.